folks are about logging in now, so
Yeah, we can do
take it
that.
away.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning. My name is Tim Piasky, CEO for the LA Ventura Chapter of the Building Industry Association of Southern California. Glad you're able to make it this morning for our Front Row Live webinar. I believe this is the second or third of these. We got several of them that'll be coming up in the future. Hope everybody's staying safe. Don't want to take up a lot of time on the intro comments. Just want to do some quick introductions and then get our speakers going. You can see I got Carlos Rodriguez here. I'll let him introduce himself in a minute as well. Then Kevin Wynne will be speaking from the SBA's, the Public Information Officer. He'll be speaking on economic injury disaster loans. And then we also have on our panel Mardell West from the City of LA District Office of SBA. We have Sonya Blake from Mayor Garcetti's office. She'll be speaking on local issues. And then Soua Vang from the San Bernardino. She'll be covering local business as well. So with that, Carlos, I'll turn it over to you for some quick comments.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. On behalf of the BIA Baldy chapter and our friends at our LA Ventura chapter, I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today. Just a quick clarification. Soua Vang is with our friends at the County of San Bernardino Economic Development, and we're excited about having our entire panel on today. I think really as we kind of get through the initial shock of this pandemic, and trying to transition to work from home and balancing home life with kids and homeschooling and all that goes with that. There's also the reality of trying to keep business afloat and really trying to make sure that as far as the BIA is concerned, that we get out as much information as possible so that our members and the business community at large can tap into those resources. So it's terrific to be able to have such a well-informed and excellent group of panelists today so that we can get a city, a county, and an overall federal perspective on how to tap into those resources. So we're really looking forward to the information today, and thanks in advance to all of our panelists here. So back to you, Tim. And Tim is on mute.
So, still learning the stuff here. So why don't we get it started? I want to kick off. Kevin was going to kick off first, but we're going to let him work out some technical difficulties that we have on his end for the video. So I want to start off first with Mardell West from the City of LA District Office of SBA to walk us through the CARES and PPP program that I know a lot of people have heard about and are trying to participate in. So Mardell, I'll kick it off to you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Tim. Glad to be able to speak to, this what we're going through right now with this COVID-19. I think it's really having a major impact on a lot of the businesses in our area. I think it's important more now than ever for businesses to, be resilient and also be resourceful, because you have to see what resources are out there and really be creative and innovative in terms of trying to figure out how you plan to navigate through this this storm, essentially. Many of the businesses that we've, grown to love, or we've, have become accustomed to, are experiencing, some really tough times and difficulties. So here at the LA District Office, we're really working hard to make sure we can facilitate that lender relationship, borrower relationship aspect. And that's really what my primary focus is. I'm the lender relations specialist here. So, we work with all the lenders in the area, and they've been getting inundated with requests. And, we understand it, and ultimately what we want to make sure that we're letting them know is we don't want to turn anybody away where they don't have anywhere to go. Like, there's always an alternative. There's always different resources, and sometimes loans may not be the option for some of our businesses. And there are some other resources that are out there, state and local resources. We have resource partners. So our small business development centers are there assisting. Our women business centers are there. We have some veteran assistance programs as well. So we just want to make sure that, our business owners are really understanding that there's a multitude of resources out there to help them thrive. So, I just want to thank you all for having us on board, and I'll talk a little bit about our program, the Paycheck Protection Program. So the Paycheck Protection Program is a loan designed to provide a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. SBA will forgive loans if all employees are kept on the payroll for 8 weeks and the money is used for payroll, rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. The Paycheck Protection Program will be available through June 30th, 2020. This program is for any small business with less than 500 employees, including sole proprietorships, independent contractors, and self-employed persons. In addition, private nonprofit organizations or 501c19 veteran organizations affected by COVID-19. Businesses in certain industries may have more than 500 employees if they meet the small business size standards for those industries. So based on the NAICS code, in your industry, it will determine whether or not you fall within that small business standards. Some businesses or industries, it's a revenue number. For others, there is an employee size standard. So you want to make sure that you identify which industry you're in and what that small business standard is. Also, small businesses in the hospitality and food industry with more than one location could also be eligible at the store and location level if the store employs less than 500 workers. So this means each store could be eligible. For this program, this Paycheck Protection Program, you can apply through any existing SBA 7A lender or through any federally insured depository institution, federally insured credit union, and farm credit system institution that is participating in the program. Other regulated lenders will be available to make these loans once they are approved and enrolled in this program. So we do have some lenders, that are not traditional lenders that are coming, requesting. So we're forwarding them along, and we're really just trying to get the resources available to our businesses to help them, have access to capital. So you should consult with your local lender as to whether it's participating in the program. Just because you've banked with a bank for a long period of time, some banks may not be participating in the program, but we do have a list of lenders on our site. So if you go to our website, you can call and check in. And also we'll be providing updates as well as once we, continue this process. We know that for our independent contractors or our wage workers, the Paycheck Protection Program will open to them on April 10th. So tomorrow, they'll be also able to register as well. One of the questions that I've been getting so frequently, just kind of jumped the gun on this one, but I think it's best to answer it now. What about those businesses that hire their employees on a contractual basis or a 1099 basis? So for the Payroll Protection Program, that program is for those employees that they are paying employee taxes on. 1099 workers are typically not paid. Their employee taxes are not paid. They're independent contractors, so they could not claim the Payroll Protection Program for them, although they could claim themselves as one of those independent contractor or gig workers once they become available, which will happen tomorrow. All right. So just a little bit of more specific details about the program. The loan will be fully forgiven if the funds are used for payroll costs, interest on mortgage, rent, and utilities. Due to the likely high subscription, at least 75% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll. Loan payments will also be deferred for 6 months. So no collateral or personal guarantees are required, and neither the government nor lenders will charge small businesses any fees. Forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining salary levels. Forgiveness will be reduced if full-time headcount declines or if salaries and wages decrease. This loan has a maturity of 2 years and an interest rate of 1%. Also, for those individuals, let's say you're a business owner and you had to let some people go, they filed for unemployment, but now you have this Paycheck Protection program and you want to rehire them or you want to keep them on the payroll. You have the ability to buy them back. So you would have to pay for, you'd have to pay the unemployment, and then you would keep them on for the 8-week period in order to be eligible for forgiveness. Also, I just want to touch on one more key point. This program is ineligible applicants or those who could not be considered under the Paycheck Protection Program would be those salaried employees that make more than $100,000 a year. So if you make more than $100,000 a year, you would not be eligible to be included in the Paycheck Protection Program. All right, so without further ado, I'll defer if Kevin's ready to speak kind of to the EIDL program. I'll allow him to speak to it, or otherwise we can take a few questions in the between time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mardell.
Thanks, Mardell.
We'll hold on questions there. Go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, I'll go ahead and kick it over. So we're going to hold questions till after everybody's had a chance to speak, and then we'll do some moderated questions, and then we'll have some Q&A for the audience at the end as well. So why don't we kick it over now to Kevin Wynne to talk about the economic injury disaster loans. Kevin?
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Mardell. SBA offers economic injury disaster loans to small businesses, small agricultural cooperatives, small aquacultural businesses, and private nonprofit organizations affected by the loss of revenue due to the coronavirus. Economic injury disaster loans provide the necessary working capital to help small businesses until normal operations resume. They do not replace lost revenue. SBA offers these loans with reasonable terms in order to keep payments affordable. Terms are determined on a case-by-case basis and based upon each borrower's ability to repay. These loans may be used to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that can't be paid because of the disaster's impact. The first payment on the economic injury loans issued due to the coronavirus will be automatically deferred for 1 year. Small businesses can also receive counseling assistance throughout the country, including SBA's 68 district offices, as well as our resource centers, including small business development centers, women's business centers, SCORE volunteers, and SCORE stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives, and Veterans Business Outreach Centers. Small businesses and private nonprofits have 9 months in which to apply for these loans. Additional assistance for small business owners and nonprofits includes the opportunity to get up to a $10,000 advance on an economic injury disaster loan. This advance may be available even if your EIDL application was declined or is pending and will be forgiven. Small businesses and nonprofits can use the economic injury disaster loan advance for payroll or other business operating expenses. The amount of the advance will be based on number of employees at $1,000 per employee and will be capped, as I said, at $10,000. Additionally, SBA disaster loans for previous disasters that are still in repayment are deferred through the end of 2020. Businesses and individuals and nonprofits do not need to contact SBA. These will be automatically deferred. Terms of the SBA economic injury disaster loans. The loan and the terms are up to 30 years and are set by SBA and based on each applicant's financial condition. Current interest rates for businesses are 3.75%, and for private nonprofits, 2.75%. You must apply online for SBA's economic injury disaster loans, and there's no fees, there's no closing costs, there's no prepayment penalties, nothing associated with that. It's a very simple application to fill out, and we'll have that up on the screen here momentarily. Our nation's small businesses and private nonprofit organizations are facing an unprecedented economic disruption due to the COVID-19 outbreak. With all 50 states and U.S. territories declared disaster areas, SBA is experiencing a large volume of applications for the economic injury disaster loans. Small businesses are the heartbeat of our communities. As they deal with this crisis, they continue to do what they can to help their community, and SBA will continue to assist small businesses with emergency loans and business counseling. And up on the screen should be our website where folks can go to apply for economic injury disaster loans, our email address should they have questions, and the 800 number, 800-659-2955 for information, and there's also a TTY up there number as well. And with that, that's the end of the SBA presentation. Like Mardell said, we'll be available for questions following the other two panelists. Thank you, Tim.
Great, thank you. So now I want to kick it over to Sonya Blake with Mayor Garcetti's Office of Economic Development. She's the Director of Community Business. So Sonya, kick it over to you.
Thank you, Tim and Carlos and everyone for being on the line. So I just want to bring you greetings from Mayor Garcetti and just let you know that he is very mindful of our business community, and his heart is going out to all those businesses that are struggling right now, and all Angelenos, whether they own a business or not. This is difficult for all of us in many ways. Number one, there's the health concerns, the public health concerns, which are very real and mandate a very decisive and bold measures that we're taking. And then the economic impact, of course, as the economic impact is reverberating throughout the city and the world, and we're dealing with that. And then, of course, we're also dealing with the uncertainties of what the future may hold as we're all waiting to see how things are going. But what is great about the business community is our resilience and our tenacity and our creativity. And there is help available. So I'm so glad that we got to hear from the SBA because, of course, the federal government does have some means to be able to really inject relief into our economy and help individual businesses. So that's great. And we really appreciate working with the SBA and our LA district office. And it's been just really productive and constructive working relationship. I would encourage people to also be thinking about help on other levels. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a framework for thinking about that, as well, in addition to the federal government, of course, there's the state level. And so I don't know how many people may know of some state programs. So there's an infrastructure bank called iBank, and they have loan guarantee programs as well for those business owners who find they may or may not be eligible for SBA loans. There are those opportunities as well. The state treasurer's office also has a loan guarantee program, which is 100% loan guarantee. If your lender's not participating in that program and they choose to do so, then you could conceivably, get a better deal, a better shot at getting that loan if the lender knows that that's guaranteed 100%. So there's some programs there. There's also a Jumpstart microloan that can be applied in Los Angeles through Pacific Coast Regional, which is one of the SBA's Small Business Development Centers, SBDCs. And so there's that assistance on the state level. Just today, the county has opened up a new loan program called the Employer Assistance Fund. And that is a program that will be up to $10,000 for businesses that have between 2 and 50 employees and can provide their tax returns. And they're going to be issuing loans to the first or 150 applicants. I'm not sure if they're going to do it as first come, first serve or by different criteria, but that is a program that is just opened up today on the county level. And then there's on the city level, the city's own small business emergency microloan. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about this program that the mayor and city council have enacted. So it's an $11 million loan. So it's a small loan program. So it does make sense when you're thinking about your time management and how do you apply for all these loans. It does make sense to consider the SBA loans, and then if there are eligibility issues, then maybe a state or a county or a city loan could be kind of somewhat of a safety net and kind of help folks who wouldn't otherwise qualify for other types of programs. And with the city loan, there are some options for borrowers. There are no fees on the loan. It could be a 0% interest rate if you would like just kind of a bridge loan for 18 months with a deferred payment of 6 months. Alternatively, you could do a 3% loan for a 5-year term and defer the payment for 12 months. That loan is also available to nonprofit organizations at a 2% interest rate. As I said, there are no fees on that, and it is available to for-profit and nonprofit organizations. So you'll find more information about that loan, if that's of interest, at lamayor.org/loan. And I also want to direct your attention to a resilience guide, which we've prepared. On that same web page, we've compiled these different loan programs that I've mentioned, as well as some nonprofit organizations as well, such as CDC Finance, Opportunity Fund, LISC has a loan, and there's some other reputable nonprofit programs listed there. So I appreciate your attention so much, and I welcome your input. I do need to jump off of the call today, but if you do email in or in the chat your questions, then I'll make sure I make myself available to the organizers to get all of those questions answered. So thank you so much today, and I just encourage everyone to consider how you might pivot in this economy. That's something that also I see a lot of businesses doing, looking at how they can create more of the essential activities as part of their core business plan, serving core businesses, essential businesses as well, doing more video conferencing, looking at pickup and delivery and convenience kinds of services for your customers, and really considering this, like, what do I need to do in a recession economy? Discounts and local allegiances, alliances, reaching out to local customers and creating that customer loyalty now, so that when this crisis has passed us and we want to rebuild, then we'll have made the most of a difficult situation. So thank you so much for your attention, and look forward to getting your questions via email after the call.
Thank you, Sonia, so much for your time and your insights today. We appreciate the leadership of Mayor Garcetti and the council and your efforts as well. We'll look forward to passing along any questions and continuing our collaboration with you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, at this time, I'd like to transition to our friends at the County of San Bernardino. Before we have Soua Vang share a few words, I think it's important to note that since the very beginning of this pandemic, the County of San Bernardino has been a leader in addressing these challenges at all levels. We're grateful for Chairman Hagman and the Board of Supervisors for quickly clarifying any confusion there might have been at the outset about housing indeed being an essential service, and ensuring that we can continue to provide the shelter needed and the housing needed now more than ever. So we're grateful for that. We're also appreciative recently, the Board of Supervisors taking action to provide some relief on maps that could be expiring, and we're eminent in doing so, and to provide a bridge time through the end of next month. So really there's a lot of proactive actions that are being taken at all levels of the county. We know it's a dire time for many of our businesses, and we're grateful to have Soua Vang on today, the Economic Development Director for the San Bernardino County's Economic Development Department. And so with that, we'll ask Soua to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I want to make sure. Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Soua Vang. I'm with the Economic Development Department. And first off, I'd like to thank Carlos, you and your team at BIA for the opportunity to be a part of this panel. And certainly would like to thank the participants for joining us this morning as well, especially as we continue to confront this health crisis together. You know, these are definitely challenging times, and we are doing everything we can at the county under the leadership of our board of supervisors to respond and to support our businesses, our workers, and, you know, quite frankly, our residents as well. And in fact, we established a COVID-19 hotline where residents can call in to ask general questions about COVID-19 and to stay up to date. We've also hosted a series of webinars, free webinars to the business community to bring awareness in terms of what programs are available. And actually this past Monday, we co-hosted with SBA out of the Orange County office to share information about the EIDL, or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, and the Paycheck Protection Program as well. And more of those webinars are expected as well. We're actually looking at solidifying some dates for next week. And if anyone is interested, I'd love for you guys to participate as well. And if I can quickly jump in. So the slides here, I will go over this a little bit later on during the panel questions, but I do also want to highlight that we've reached out to many business leaders throughout San Bernardino County because we think it's important to get their perspectives in terms of what challenges they are facing, how can we provide further support as we plan on an economic recovery strategy, right? It's important to have that dialogue and not just a one time. We want to have continuous discussions. And so I would definitely invite anyone who would be interested to be a part of that conversation too. So those are just some of the actions that the county has taken. And I look forward to sharing with you more information a little bit later on.
Thanks, Soua, and we'll kick it back over to Tim.
Great, thanks, Carlos. So now I want to kick off some questions. We've been getting questions from the audience. If you do have questions, go ahead and send those in to us. But I know Carlos and I have a few questions to kick it off as we're getting more questions from the audience. So the first question I want to give to Kevin, which is if you can tell us kind of what are the biggest differences between the EIDL and the PPP loan program? You know, why would a business decide to go with one program over the other program?
Because he's much more familiar with the PPP program. Basically, you have 9 months in which to come to SBA for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. It's also a live loan in the fact that you can ask for additional money for operating expenses and you're under no obligation to accept the loan. The advance on the Economic Injury Disaster Loan of the $10,000 is going to be forgiven provided you meet the parameters. And that's $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. It's also a direct loan from the federal government. So you're not going to an outside bank like you do with the non-disaster side of the SBA Mardell's programs. So our underwriting criteria for these economic injury disaster loans is a lot more lenient. It's a very streamlined application. When folks apply, it takes about 10 minutes. We'll get in touch with you almost right away and try and get that advance to you. We've promised within 3 days. There's a backlog of loans, though, so we encourage everyone to apply. But that's basically what the economic injury disaster loan is. It's like I said, a live loan. You have a lot more time to apply than the Paycheck Protection program. And I'll let Mardell speak to the PPP side of the question. Mardell.
Great. So just to add to that, so one of the similarities, but key differences is with the Paycheck Protection Program, there is no personal guarantee or collateral requirement for that one. Let me just put my video on. All right, I'm back. So there's no personal guarantee or collateral requirement with this program. Although they are very similar in terms of you can use the EIDL program for payroll, you can't do the EIDL for payroll and also do the Paycheck Protection Program because it'll have an impact on the forgiveness piece and potential eligibility. So what you could do if you had already applied for the EIDL program in advance, and then you came and applied for the Paycheck Protection program, you could use the EIDL program for some of those other qualified expenses, and then use the Paycheck Protection program for your payroll and have eligibility for both of those. So I think it just really depends on the business's strategy. And what I always tell the businesses is really think about three things, and this is what I look at. How is your business currently being impacted, right? How is it currently being impacted? In the future, we anticipate that this COVID-19 will have lasting impacts of up to 6 to 12 months. So what are those future impacts going to have? Is this going to impact your future business? And the last piece I look at is what are going to be some increased expenses potentially, because now you have, necessary, health and safety things that you want to put into place. You may need to buy masks. You may need to hire a cleaning service. Your facility may not be up and running for a few months. You may need to hire security. All these things are things that you want to consider for your business. So you just want to be sure that you're capturing all the things that may have been impacted or will be impacted in your business.
Thanks, Mardell. Just a few follow-up questions. As far as, just overall, if you're a business today and you've been considering these options, where would be the first place you would go if you were looking into the PPP? Is there a list? You said there's a list of participating banks. Can they go to your website? How do you get them started? Where would you recommend you start?
So my first thing is I always advocate for the borrowers to be educated, right? So you really want to know what resources are available. So the first place I start, I go on SBA.gov, look at some of the funding programs. If you go, there's a link directly for COVID-19. And then it talks about the coronavirus funding programs. And there's a lot of different resources there. So some of these businesses have pre-existing 7A loans or small business loans. There's a debt relief portion of it where SBA will actually pay their debt for a specific period of time. Also, they have the economic injury disaster loan, which is another, resource. So you can read up about the programs, learn about what criteria is needed. Also, this program, the Paycheck Protection program, is on there, and that program, as it is a part of the CARES Act, is in coordination with the Treasury Department. So I would go to treasury.gov. They have a link on their site as well, and it gives you a little bit more information about some of the specifics and the criteria as well. And I think those are two really good sites to look. Also, as a business owner, here's how I would really kind of frame it. There's no getting back to normal, right? It's a new normal. And that's what, all survivors or those impacted by disasters have to get acclimated to. So your business structure may change. You may become a virtual business, or you may have to reduce some overhead expenses to keep your business thriving, or even, reduce some of the employees. But some of the best advice I can offer them is contact your local small business development center, because they can assist you and help guide you and help you navigate to where your business's new normal will be. So I think that's a great place to also start as well.
You had mentioned, real quick, you had mentioned a loan that hadn't really been unpacked yet, the distinction on a 7A loan. Can you provide some quick insights on that?
Well, I'm referring to our traditional 7A loan. So SBA offers 7A loans,
okay.
And that's a traditional loan that is offered through the banks. And prior to the disaster, we were offering 7A loans, but that's another option. So if, let's say, someone applied to the economic injury disaster loan, they received the loan there, they did the Paycheck Protection program, and let's say they still needed additional funds, they could still, by applying to those other programs, those disaster programs, that does not disqualify or disallow that business from locating additional funds to help them navigate.
Thanks, Mardell. Tim, you have a follow-up question for Kevin?
Yeah, so just wondering, Kevin, as far as the biggest challenges you're seeing with the EIDL, or what kind of questions are you hearing come up all the time as far as people that are trying to apply to that program?
Basically, the fact that all 50 states and U.S. territories have been declared, we are, needless to say, hundreds of thousands of small businesses have applied. So the quicker you can get online and apply, even today, the best you can be. We're open 7 days a week. We're processing these loans. But I can't emphasize enough to get on there and apply, get yourself in the queue. And that's one of the big things that we're hearing is kind of the wait times, Tim, that there's such a volume of small businesses applying for these. Now, with the programs that Mardell has mentioned, which came out last Friday, it's eased off somewhat because there's other programs available that SBA is offering, but just can't emphasize enough for folks to get in there and apply for these economic injury disaster loan programs. It's a great program. The application is easy, and the good thing about it is you can ask for additional funds down the line, 9 months, a year from now, if you're finding your operating expenses aren't up to your revenues and you need additional money. You can come back to SBA once you're approved, and you're under no obligation to accept the loan.
So could we clarify, and this would be for both of you guys, can we clarify that when people are going after these loans, whether it's the EIDL or the PPP, is the loan through SBA or is it through the local bank? And then if it's the local bank, I mean, you're hearing about some banks are participating, some banks aren't. And it seems like some of these banks, they're only dealing with their existing clients that have current loans already with them. So, what are these businesses going to do if they have banking relationships with the bank that's not participating right now? What can they do?
Yeah.
So
I'll
speak to that
address
one. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mardell, if you want to take that one, sir.
Okay. So yeah. So I can speak to that. So in regards to the Paycheck Protection Program piece, the distinction between that and the EIDL loan is directly originated, serviced, and handled by the SBA. So that happens online. You fill out the application. They're the ones who actually go through that process. For the Paycheck Protection Program, that's directly handled through the banks. Although it has our name on it because we're guaranteeing the loan, that program is rolling out through our lenders in the area. So the way that it works, as you stated, the banks in itself, right, have their relationships with their current members. So when they realized that this program was rolling out, those were the initial ones to apply for the program. So you can imagine they've got tons and tons of requests, and some of those banks, like you said, were not or have not decided to participate in the program. So what options do they have? So we actually have on our website, we have a list of banks, and I know some of them are participating and some of them just kind of have a full workload, but that should not deter them from, reaching out and seeing what other banks are available because, currently we are working to provide a list of those additional banks that are taking on new members and new applications. And it's case-by-case basis. So, you'd literally have to find the closest banks or participating lenders in your area and just contact them to see if they are working with new members, because there are a lot of banks that are still taking new applications.
Thanks for that clarification. We're going to open it up to questions from our audience just momentarily, but wanted to just pivot to the county perspective and ask Soua for a moment, what type of small business resources does San Bernardino County have to help construction companies in the home building industry, and how could they help now? Any thoughts on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. So if I may have the slide that was up earlier, so I can just go through most of them. Carlos, is your team pulling up the slide, or did you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, so we're in a
Okay.
live TV moment, so I think we're trying to
Oh,
get that up
perfect.
for you. Maybe while we're working on that, please begin, and we'll hopefully have that up for you momentarily.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carlos. So the County of San Bernardino, we're committed to providing services to the business community. There's a whole wide array of services that we can certainly help, not just the building industry, but all businesses in San Bernardino County. So if you take a look at the slide that I have there, I do want to call your attention specifically to the easy online permitting platform that's available through our land use services. I'm not sure if many of you have utilized that before, but I would encourage you to, if you haven't already. It was actually instituted prior to COVID-19. And especially now that we're closed to the public until further notice, the use of technology in this platform really allows for the flow of communication to continue. You're able to check the status of your application, to check updates on your projects, as well as even pay fees online. And so again, if it's not easy to navigate through, I've done it myself, so it's actually not it's very intuitive and easy to navigate through. But if you do have challenges, please do not hesitate to reach out to our economic development team. We're certainly happy to help and get you the answers that you need. I also would like you to, or encourage you to participate in terms of visiting our website at selectsbcounty.com to stay up to date on information related to COVID-19, as well as business resources. You know, the situation that we're in now is very fluid. Business programs are constantly changing, right? We're just rapidly evolving. And so we're committed to providing you with accurate and up-to-date information. So please do check out our website. Again, that's selectsbcounty.com. The hotline that I alluded to earlier during my opening remarks, the COVID-19 hotline, I do have it on the slide as well. The operating days are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So please call if you have any questions. Other than medical, we are happy to answer your questions. And if I could go to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So this just gives you a visual representation in terms of the easy online permitting so that you are familiar with it. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to our team directly and we can help. Let's go to the next slide, please. Great, thank you so much. It might be a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but also through our workforce development department, there's a variety of free webinars that we do offer and host. As you can see on there, layoffs, furloughs, and much more will be discussed tomorrow during the webinar. I would encourage you to participate. There's a variety of topics that's related to COVID-19. If you're interested, I'm more than happy to share with you the flyer. And of course, you can find this information on our website as well. Again, that's selectsbcounty.com, and you go to events and you'll see all the free webinars that we are offering to all businesses in the county. In addition, please make note of the free human resource hotline that's on the flyer. This is if you have any questions related to, let's say, layoffs or anything HR related, please call that phone number. You will be able to talk to a labor law attorney who will be able to direct your questions accordingly.
That's very helpful, Soua, and we'll be sure to have those slides available for our members on our website. And we're in close coordination for our members to know with Soua and her team. And as we continue to get information in real time, we're pushing that out on social media and other platforms. So I want to make sure that our members continue to get this great information. So thank you for sharing that. We do have a number of questions from the audience, and there were some that were overlapping a little bit. Want to ask about the cutoff date for PPP, and then there were some questions about the $100,000 eligibility on the PPP for employees, and some questions are about thinking that the $100,000 cap was to calculate the amount of the loan and forgiveness limit for 8 weeks. And can you clarify some of those particulars as to if you had an employee over $100,000, can you go up to $100,000 for that person? Or maybe Mardell help us a little bit with those points of detail.
So sorry, I'm sorry, I kind of missed that one. I'm kind
No
of
problem.
multitask. Can you repeat
Yeah,
that for me, please?
the
Sorry
first
about
part
that.
was if there's a cutoff date for PPP, and then also the $100,000 cap for an employee salary. Is that so? If there's an employee that makes more than that, can the business apply for up to $100,000 so that at least there's a portion of that salary that is made available?
So the Paycheck Protection Program will be available through June 30th. So you have up until June 30th. That's the time frame. Also, just to answer your question in regards to the $100,000, based on the information I have on the application, and I'll read it for you. Just give me 1 second. That total amount, which is $100,000, is the threshold. So you cannot make more than 99,999. If you make 100,000, then that does not make you eligible. You are no longer eligible to be included in that. So it's not. I can subtract the difference. If they make 120, I cannot claim up to 100,000. If they're above 100,000, then they are not eligible. But I want to read the really quick. Just give me 1 second. There's specifically on the application. They have guidance on the 100,000. So this is the verbatim from the application, and this is what it says pertaining to the $100,000 piece. So it says, for purposes of calculating average monthly payroll, most applicants will use the average monthly payroll for 2019, excluding cost over $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. For seasonal businesses, the applicant may elect to instead use average monthly payroll for the time period between February 15th, 2019 and June 30th, 2019, excluding cost over $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. And that's also the same for new businesses. For new businesses, average monthly payroll may be calculated using the time period from January 1st, 2020 to February 29th, 2020, excluding costs over $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee.
Thank you, Mardell. Tim, do you have any of the questions you'd like to share?
Yeah. So there are some people, let's kind of reiterate, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but there's several people that are submitting applications and not getting a response back. Is it possible that people can submit to more than one bank? I know there's a kind of a time crunch on getting this in, and there's a lot of concern from people about, not wanting to miss the boat, but they're not getting a response back either from the banks that they submitted to. So can you give them some advice on that?
I would say utilize the resource that you have. So if you've applied, you haven't heard back, and based on your gut feeling, you feel like there's a whole lot of applicants, or maybe you've spoken to them and they haven't, they've told you that they have a long list of applicants. I would apply it in multiple places, because the way the Paycheck Protection Program works, it comes directly from the bank, and then it's guaranteed by SBA. So it's based on the bank's ability to make the payment. If the bank has already dispersed, 1,000 applications or 1,100 applications, their capacity may not allow for them to do additional, or it may. So I don't know. It's a case by case basis, but I always say, one, don't limit yourself to one thing. Don't put all your eggs your eggs in one basket, and just kind of figure out what are some of those options. And I would apply to multiple places and see which one kind of sticks first, because in our system, we'll know if they've received, more than one. So there's no duplication of benefits.
Okay, perfect. And another question came up that lobbyists are not eligible to be counted as far as certain employees, but there are certain people in a company that may do certain advocacy, but maybe they're not registered lobbyists in a company. So can you describe what's meant as far as that restriction? Is it strictly for registered lobbyists, or is it people in the company that also do like government affairs advocacy?
So I don't want to speculate on speculation, just because I'm unaware of what the specific details are regarding lobbyists. What I always kind of refer back to is, are they on the payroll? Are they receiving, or is the business owner paying employment taxes on them? If they're not, then they would not be eligible under the payroll protection specifically for that business. But if they're an independent contractor, I would apply. Let them make the eligibility determination. Because if you've been impacted, my advice is to apply. If they determine that you don't meet the requirements, then that's understandable. But instead of being on the fence of whether you qualify or not, and then you find out on the back end that you may have been eligible and you didn't apply, I think that would be more of a disservice than actually applying and finding out that you're not eligible.
So if there's a question of uncertainty, err on the side of applying, basically, and let the institution say, no, you don't qualify. Don't. Is it
that would be my personal opinion? Yes.
Okay. And the small business development centers, Mardell, you mentioned earlier, those who are watching says, man, I wish I had a Mardell West I could speak to, or it'd be wonderful if I could speak to Kevin Wynne. Can you just, again, maybe highlight how those watching can be able to speak to an expert like yourself to help them navigate to any lingering questions? It's a small business development center, that initial recommendation?
Absolutely. So here's where you can go. So we have on SBA.gov, if you go on our site, we have something called local assistance, right? Under our resources, you click on the resource tab, and it literally tells you, the SBDC, so you can find a small business development center near you. You can find a SCORE mentor, which is really helpful. So that's our senior core of retired executives. These are volunteer business counselors and advisors who provide, assistance to help businesses as well. We also have our veteran business outreach center, which for our veterans, and our women business centers. All of this is available on our SBA.gov site /local assistance. So you can find that on our site, SBA.gov, go to local assistance, and they'll show you which resources are nearby to help you navigate.
Thank you. Tim, do you have we're getting toward that 5-minute mark here. Do you have another question from the audience?
Yeah, so I saw some other ones coming up. One of the questions that came in is, what is meant by the EIDL program?
That would be the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, where folks can get up to $2 million at low interest rates with a 1-year deferral. It's for payroll, operating expenses, anything to get folks through the disaster recovery period. It's 3.75% rate for small businesses. It's also available for nonprofits at 2.75%, terms up to 30 years. Very easy application process to apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The good thing is you have until December of this year to apply, and it's a loan that can be either increased or decreased, modified, and you're under no obligation to accept it.
Okay, perfect. So I did see one other question that came up regarding some banks are on their website or on their application process are stating that you are not able to apply to other banks. So seems like there's still a lot of confusion out there. Should it be that they stick with that one bank, or do you think, Mardell, that they should still apply to other banks?
I think they should apply with other banks, especially if their bank is if their bank is not participating, then they wouldn't have access based on their bank. But there are some other lenders out there who are taking member, because like I said, some banks are like, we have so many internal applications through our members that we just can't field any new applications. Some banks are getting 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 applications, and these are like, 5 and 4, staff banks. So what I always advocate for is see which banks are out there on our lender portal. contact a few, call them, see if they're providing the PPP program, and apply. Apply to the ones that you feel like you have a good shot at, and see what sticks. But also, what you can also do is send an email to if you have any other questions or need assistance locating a bank. You can contact the LADO Lender Los Angeles District Office email box. It's lado@sba.gov. There we'll answer questions as they come in and also provide assistance for those that just kind of need assistance in terms of like, what are my options? What are my resources? Who can I contact? Because our SBDCs, usually they're the ones that have connections with not only local and state resources, but they also have connections with lenders as well.
Just a couple of rapid fire questions before we close. If a company is moving towards a furlough for some of their employees, does that impact their application in any way for PPP? And or also there was a more specific question about a single member LLC. We have someone on that's a single member LLC which owns rental property. Can they apply and use the funds to pay for mortgage, utilities, et cetera, for that property? And if so, will any portion of the loan be forgivable?
That was like a medley of questions.
Right. Trying to squeeze as many in there. Maybe that last one on the.
All right, I can answer this one. This will be. I got to run after this, but so, like I said, if with the sole proprietor or the LLC, which is one person, which I'm assuming is a pass-through, they would be eligible to apply April 10th, which is Friday. So, as I always advocate, let them determine the eligibility and apply. Find a designated lender who provided a PPP program, and sometimes in order to make sure that you have everything that you need for that program, even consult with one of our resource partners. Like I said, it could be even a quick email or phone call. Hey, this is my current business. This is what I want to do. Do you have any lenders in your referral network that you can refer me to? Because I'm not sure that my bank is participating. So I think just utilizing those resources, and as an independent owner, put your good foot forward and apply.
Thanks, Mardell. I'm going to have Tim close, but just before I kick it over to him, I want to thank all of the panelists today. Really appreciate your time and this invaluable information you provided to the BIA members today. We're greatly appreciative. Tim?
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. And I'll reiterate what Carlos said. Thanks a lot to all the speakers. Great input. Really appreciate it. To the audience as well for great questions. Feel free to reach out to us. I know that on your screen you got contact information for the speakers as well as Carlos and I. If you have continued questions that didn't get answered today, feel free to reach out to us or one of the speakers. And we look forward to having you guys join us on one of our future webinars. Thank you.